Okay, we'll make a start. So thanks for your patience and welcome and good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for joining. My name's Mike Faulkner Hall. I'm an international delivery manager, and I'm responsible for effective and efficient delivery of all our overseas work within WRAP, working on plastics and also on textiles. Just a couple of points, kind of housekeeping to go through, stating the obvious, make sure you've got your volume turned up, you can hear me clearly. We are recording this webinar, and this is to enable us to be able to share it afterwards. So for those who were struggling to get here or want to revisit some of the content, then they'll be able to do that afterwards. We will share the slides and the recording and the Q&As as well. So there should be ample opportunity to revisit if you want to. For any kind of questions, if you could target or email, send all your, use the chat function and mark them for Kate Groves. Kate is, I would say, ably supported me. She's actually doing the bulk of the work on this, but she will capture those questions, then we'll raise them after the presentation, and we'll endeavour to answer your questions. So I'm now going to kind of move into the main presentation, and I thought it might be useful that there may be some who are less familiar with WRAP on the call than others. We are a not-for-profit environmental charity, and we have a kind of a longer-term vision statement and a mission. And our vision is, as we say here, it's a world in which resources are used sustainably, and clearly very relevant for today's call on sustainable use of plastics. And the way we look to kind of drive this and achieve this vision is to accelerate change and use the kind of resource efficient economy through how we actually design and produce and sell products, how we use and consume them, and then look at how it's possible to either reuse those products or recycle them. And so we are very much around the focus on circular economy and delivering this resource efficiency. Our core business, I guess, is based in the UK, and we cover England, Wales and Northern Ireland. But increasingly, since about 2016, 2017, we've been growing quite rapidly, and we have a fairly good international presence, reflecting the work that we're doing in the UK. To keep us focused, our priority areas are food, plastics and textiles. And target audiences are pretty much everybody, but it's how we reach those becomes important. But we work with governments, we work with businesses, we work with the voluntary sector, and we work with people and citizens. And the activities we do, we look and we can provide support for developing policies and providing insights based on robust research. We can provide technical support, and we have a number of technical specialists, including technical specialists for plastics in the organization. We look about supporting grants and investments, and clearly this is what today's call is about. We use a really big platform we use to derive change are voluntary agreements with businesses. And these have been very successful, and we've been running voluntary agreements since the early 2000s. But building on that, to make sure that we engage with citizens, we also have citizen behavioural change campaigns as well. So we are working right across the supply chain and all key audiences, and have focused messages for all of those particular organisations or individuals. Today's webinar focusing on the International Circular Plastics Flagship competition, that snappily named title which just rolls off the tongue. But what I want to do is provide a bit of background to the competition and show you the work that we're already doing in developing and supporting plastic pacts globally, and then put the context and the scope of the International Plastics competition into position, so we can see how this opportunity will continue to help us support these plastic pacts. And then getting into a bit of the detail, some insights into the application process, and provide information on what can be funded, what can't be funded, and a bit more detail in terms of what we would see as a successful application. So looking at the work we do on plastics, RAP's actually been engaged in plastics for quite a long time, way back in about 2003, 2004, we started work on plastics. And I think it would be fair to say that kind of in the early 2010, 2015, we pivoted our focus slightly, bringing in more food, but we never kind of lost sight of what was going on in plastics. And then we get to 2017, 2018, when there was a huge amount of media attention, government focus, and importantly, public awareness of the environmental impacts of plastics. And we needed to respond quickly to that. We gathered businesses, NGOs, and governments and pulled them all together and said, we think developing a voluntary agreement focusing on plastics will be a good initiative. And we got very strong consensus. And in 2018, we launched the UK Plastic Pact. And the companies shown here are kind of representative of the sector who engaged at the early stages, but we got very rapid growth. There was really strong appetite, and it's kind of gone on from year to year and is growing all the time. And we've just recently published the latest update report showing the progress that this pact's been made. The UK Pact has 4 ambitious targets, and they are measurable, so the reports will actually demonstrate the progress towards those targets. Since then, to kind of demonstrate the UK's leadership, we have been expanding our work on plastics globally quite dramatically. So there are now pacts set up all over Europe, North America. We have one in Chile. We are in the process of setting up 2 new pacts, one in Mexico and one in Colombia. We also have pacts in South Africa, Kenya, and India. And there's also an ANZPAC, which covers Australia and some of the Pacific Islands. These have been developed in partnership with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and we work very, very closely with them. We manage and provide expertise into some of the pacts. Elsewhere, they are managed by Ellen MacArthur Foundation, but we continue to support them and provide guidance and share information. So they are very much aligned. They're also, you'll see on the slide here, we have some stars, and these are global plastic action partnerships, and these have been developed by the World Economic Forum. Again, they are similar to a plastic pact. They operate slightly differently, but the principles are the same. They're about driving change to reduce the environmental impact of plastic packaging. We are engaged with the World Economic Forum on all these plastic pacts or plastic action partnerships. So we've got good visibility of all these initiatives happening globally, and they are all sharing insights and knowledge and supporting each other to drive change. So focusing in on business voluntary agreements and the pacts in particular, they kind of split into 4 quadrant areas, but probably more importantly that they all, irrespective of which country it is, they all have these 4 pillars and objectives to eliminate unnecessary and problematic plastics, for 100% of plastic packaging to be reusable, recyclable, or compostable. And that target varies slightly. In India, they have taken out the option of being compostable. They want it to be reusable or recyclable. Increase the rate of effectively recycled plastic packaging. So this is to make sure that the plastic packaging that is reusable, recyclable, is actually recycled. It's not just a theoretical it can be technically. There are infrastructure and systems set up in place to enable it. And to create a market pull, so for all these plastics that are collected and recycled, if we can increase the recycled content of new plastic packaging, that creates a market pull to feed into and create demand for more materials to be recycled. The way the pacts are set up and the role that RAPS played in supporting not just India, South Africa, Kenya, and Chile, which are the countries which are relevant to this call, in all the pacts we've supported. There is this National Plastic Pact, and they are led by local partners, and we've got some really strong partners, well-recognized partners in all of these pacts. And to provide guidance to the pacts, there is a steering committee, and that consists of business members, so organizations who have signed up to the pact, and so they have a vested interest. They provide kind of governance and steerance, keep it in check. But the pacts are also well supported by supporting bodies and the wider plastic sector, NGOs, etc. So there is openings for all in this one, but the decision makers are those who actually sign up and are in the positions to make active change. RAP's role in every single pact that we've supported and developed is to provide this strategic, operational and technical advice on how to run a pact. And it can be challenging. It sounds quite easy. You set your targets and you do some media coverage and everybody is lining up at your door. The important thing for a pact is it delivers change, and there are clear activities which can be shown to be driving change. And that's where this call again comes into it. You know, there's an opportunity for us to do something collectively which will make a change and help the pacts in India, South Africa, Kenya and Chile deliver their targets. And we feed in technical advice as well. I mentioned earlier we have technical specialists. In the early days, some of these pacts perhaps lack a little bit of technical knowledge. They need to resource new specialists to come in. We will support them and enable them to use our technical specialists. So we make sure that not only are the targets that they're set are realistic and achievable, but some of the activities we might drive them and encourage and shape them, so we make sure that they are relevant to the particular targets. This next slide's quite busy, but really it's to kind of highlight the particular pacts that we're talking about this afternoon. And the kind of dates I would just bring to your attention. The Chilean Plastic Pact, that's the oldest of the 4 pacts here. That was launched in 2019, is up and running successfully, and they clearly just want some extra pushes in a couple of areas that they're struggling with. After the Chile Plastic Pact, South Africa launched in January 2020, and they have just published their first annual report, and again they're making great progress. So those are the slightly maturer of the 2 pacts. And then more recently this year, in September, early September, India launched their Plastic Pact, and then right at the end of September, it might even be actually early October, Kenya launched their pact. But these pacts are all up and running. They've set their targets, they have their memberships. We are now moving into the delivery phase and ensuring that they do actually deliver an impact. Just kind of stepping back, you know, what is it all about? Why are we running this grants competition, and what's the kind of objectives behind it? So it's to provide funding for any organization effectively who can demonstrate either technological solutions, practical solutions that will help the particular country's pact deliver their targets. So it has a bit of a focus onto it, and it might be a solution, a technology intervention, an IT intervention. It doesn't really matter, but the important thing is it will contribute towards one of the 4 pact targets. in India, Chile, Kenya, and South Africa. I think there's another angle to this that, it's good that we look at this from the environmental aspect and looking to have an impact outside the UK on plastic packaging. But there's also an opportunity here for UK innovators and businesses, key industry stakeholders who want to get involved or grow what they're doing in the global plastic packaging chain. There's opportunities to build connections, to open up new opportunities. And I've said that the UK is certainly up there with a number of countries. We're certainly one of the leading countries on the work we are doing to address the environmental impact of plastic packaging. And this is an opportunity to showcase what we're doing and what you're doing to the wider world. You'll see the link here, and clearly you know where to go and get the information from the website, but it's repeated through. So in case afterwards you're not sure, when we share the slides, you'll be able to access what you need to do to register for an application. So with regards to this specific call, a bit of background, the funding is provided by UKRI, and the size of the pot available for awarding grants is 1.7 million for plastic projects. So that is the amount that we are going to be awarding to successful applicants. Eligible applicants will be able to apply for funding, and the range for those particular grants were going to flow from about £50,000 up to £250,000. And the funding can cover 100% of eligible costs. And I'll provide a little bit more detail on eligible costs a little bit later on, but fundamentally, there will be no or very small requirement to provide match funding. Because we want the projects to deliver an in-country pilot or demonstration, the 20% of any, or up to 20% of any funding awarded can be allocated to an in-country partner. So to run a pilot in a country with an in-country partner, there is likely they will incur some costs. And so some of the funding can be used to support them to offset their costs. It's capped at 20%, and that might seem that that's quite a small amount, but from what we've been told by our in-country partners, 20% of any grant will go considerably further in these countries than it will do within the UK. The overall costs for labour, etc., are considerably cheaper in these countries. So that's why we felt we didn't need to increase it. There is the opportunity in the application pack that for very rare occurrences, if there are cases where not being able to deliver a project without increasing that option, there is the opportunity to ask for more, and there'll need to be a very strong business case to allow that. But we wanted to just give that little bit of flexibility. We didn't want that cap to be an absolute deal breaker, but I would say this is done on a case-by-case basis, and I'm not at this moment anticipating that many will be actually would agree with, but I would just highlight that if it's a deal breaker, then please ask this question. Importantly, any intervention or solution is going to address one or more of the challenges that the in-country partners have identified, and I'll put a bit more detail on those challenges in the next few slides. The closing date for applications is the 13th of January, and I'll repeat this again as I go through. That is a hard deadline. There is no ifs or buts about that closing deadline. Nothing will change. We need to be able to get sight of who we're going to be able to support and have agreed with them what we're going to support before the end of March. We need to assess all the applications when they come in, decide which ones meet our criteria, which ones we think are going to have the best impact in the countries, and then actually make those awards. So we need some time to do that, hence the very tight timeline. Just a little heads up, when we talk around the in-country partner, if you are struggling to find an in-country partner or don't have one and would like some help, then please do get in touch with us. As I've said earlier, we've got some really strong in-country partners. We have signatory members into the Pacts, and so we're very happy if you're looking for a particular partner or a partner in a particular sector, to open out and reach out to them and see whether we can help you secure an in-country partner. So the challenge statements, and the way we approached this, we went to all the countries, to the Pacts, and said, can you reach out to your members and others and say, where are the key areas that you envisage are going to be problematic for enabling you to meet your targets? And what we found quite interesting is that they combined into particular focus areas. So we have 4 areas of focus, and then within each area of focus there were 3 or 4 challenges that identified. What you can see on the slide here is that a lot of these challenges are common in all 4 countries. So what we're looking for is a solution that will advance refill or reuse solutions that eliminate the use of small format sachet packs in Chile, South Africa, Kenya, and India. So all 4 countries are the focus. And if you have a technology, you have a solution that you think can help with that, can actually contribute towards the Pacts targets, and it could be replicated in all 4 countries, and you feel you can either, you have in-country partners, or with a bit of help, you can secure them, then you can apply 4 times for the same solution for each country. So effectively, you could submit 4 slightly different solutions against one particular challenge. So the 4 areas, 4 challenge areas: flexible film or packs, I don't think will be too much of a surprise for people. Reusable packaging and new business models. And then the other 2, again, flexible film packs and small formats. And then finally, end market development. What can we do to develop and open up new markets for some of these materials that are collected, with a particular focus on closed loop recycling, tray to tray, or bottle to bottle type recycling. Who can apply? So this kind of comes back to eligibility. The organisations must be a legal registered UK entity and operate in the UK. When you look at kind of the sort of organisations, small, medium and large commercial entities, research institutes, universities, not-for-profits, all these sort of organisations are eligible to apply. And when you can go through the list, that doesn't actually exclude that many types of organisations or businesses. Whilst this is being funded by UKRI, we want to be having a look at solutions that are kind of ready to go to the market or beyond. And we've highlighted here, we want something that is tried and tested at technology readiness level 6, in that sort of region, 6, 7, but it's ready to enter the market and be demonstrated, and will address a specific country challenge. You'll need an applicant to be able to clearly demonstrate you've got the capability and the resources to be able to deliver the project, good risk management processes in place, and coming back to that timeline again, you need to be able to deliver it in line with the agreed timeline, and the timeline for completion is March 2023, and to provide a realistic budget. At the end of the projects, we will require all recipients to submit a detailed feasibility report upon completion, and that will need to be submitted ahead of March 2023, so we can then actually make the final payments. I point out that for the successful applicants, that this isn't a here's your grant, off your way, you go away and do it. We want to be engaged. We want to see how it's progressing. We want to be able to get visibility and actually support the grants as they come through, the innovations as they come through. So we've got a really strong awareness of how it's progressing and when it's going to be implemented, and possibly even have the opportunity to go and visit and see how the pilots are running. Last little piece and couple of pieces in there, you need to be holding a UK-based bank account. And in terms of your innovation, your solution, you must be willing to allow Innovate UK and RAP to share this information in the public domain. And this goes back to, we want to be able to showcase the excellent work which is going on within the UK, and be able to shout loud about it so people can hear what great opportunities engaging with people like yourselves could open up on the global market. Eligible costs, I talked about these, just mentioned them earlier. This is not an inclusive list. It is considerably longer, and more guidance can be found on this in the application documents. But to give a flavour, it can range from desk-based research to a bit of background to kind of work out the local markets. It will cover staff costs working directly on the projects, obviously to cover the feasibility report. It can you can use a consultant, a technical advisor and support, so you can bring in specialists to help you. Where these are essential, subcontract these costs as well. Maybe if you need, well, hopefully if you're going to run an in-country pilot, you'll need to be moving equipment and move them to the country. Basic things around PPE and safety equipment. Consumables, materials are covered. Any requirements to test to meet local conditions, local standards, they can all be included, making sure you comply with the local quality control measures. And as I say, we're hopeful we're going to see some in-country pilots, so travel and accommodation, those costs which are directly related to the project can be covered as well. And I know travel can be quite challenging at the moment, but just to mention again that the implementation of this is going to be through 2022 into early 2023, and hopefully the impact of the pandemic will be reduced and travel becomes slightly easier. There is a requirement set on overheads, and these are set at 20% of eligible labour costs, and there is further information in the guidance documentation that you can download when you apply. But just to say that's a cap in there, and that's a requirement of our funder that we can't go above that 20% eligible labour cost. So what sort of things are not eligible? And I think these are probably fairly self-evident. Obviously, it needs to address one of the challenge statements clearly. We've worked closely with our partners. I've identified what their challenge areas are. We want to be clear that the innovation or solution will deliver change against one of these statements. Timeline has got to be completed within the time scale, so complete feasibility report finished by the end of March 2023. Payment costs that are considered excessive, and this is just to have a sense check on this. When the applications are submitted, they will be reviewed by a specialist who will look at project costs and the financials of it. They will also be reviewed by in-country partners who have a good handle of what local costs are likely to be. And they will be reviewed by a plastics technical specialist. So they will actually have a look at this, maybe some of the technology which is being suggested, and they'll have a good understanding. So just make sure that any costs that you submit, or the costs that you do submit, are realistic and are not on the high side. The next one, incentive payments. I'd like to think that goes without saying. We want to make sure that the investment is used correctly, and incentive payments, we would see that as a clear breach. Any costs associated with business as usual activities, and as an example, if your day-to-day business is to sell your technology into one of these countries and you've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years, that's part of your core business. And so we would look at that and say, well, actually, you have a business model set up and running, it's all working okay. We don't want to support those sort of things. However, if you want to replicate that, so you might be selling into India and you think you could replicate it in any of the other countries, that is not business as usual. So that just changes some of the context. Large capital purchase, capital building works, infrastructure, the big ticket items aren't covered under the grant. I've talked around the overhead costs, recoverable VAT, projects to displace recycling activities from existing recycling activities. And this last piece around increased inequality and between different parts of society. These last 2 points are really, really important to us. The informal sector in particular, in all these 4 countries, play a huge role in collecting plastics really from householders and from businesses, and collect them in a way that they can then go forward for recycling. And they rely on the income they generate for their livelihood. It's the difference to them between a meal ticket or not. So if a solution comes out which excludes large elements of the informal sector from carry on in that way, then we won't be supporting it. If it makes life easier for them, enables them to work more efficiently, then that would be absolutely fine. No problems with that at all. So I'm moving on to the last couple of slides now. How to apply. The first step is a pre-qualification questionnaire on the website. This is a very short, it's almost a sense check to make sure that you've thought about your potential project and you have, which particular challenge statement, which country you want to work with, whether you have a project partner or not. So it's just a way to have that first bit of filter to make sure that your thought process aligns. If you submit that, we review that very, very quickly. And if we think it's something which is worth progressing, you will then get full details of how to apply via email, and then we will move on to we use a Delta procurement platform, and that will give you full application to the guidance documents, application form, and other supporting documents. So I really encourage you, if you're thinking about this, please fill in the PQQ as quickly as possible. The sooner you fill that in, the sooner you will get more details to the application form, know what's required, know where you might be able to get extra help from. The other point to make, one of the other points is, please make sure you complete all the forms. So this will be the various sections on the application form, the budget, and the project plan. And this is important to us. We need to get all the information from all the applicants. And if you miss something off this, it has the potential to make you non-compliant. So just make sure that you kind of check you haven't missed any particular sections out and you've completed it to the best of your ability. A possible suggestion, if you want to bring in a specialist bid writer to help you with it, that's absolutely fine. Approach that people have used in the past is a kind of a win, no win fee with them, so that the bid writer is encouraged to really support you and not just get paid for submitting another document. Anything pre-award is not claimable under the grant. So ultimately, if you do use a third party, then you will have to bear those costs yourselves. really encourage people to make their applications clear and concise, and more detail or more page after page is not always better. Make it clear and concise. We are hopeful we're going to get a large number of companies, organizations applying, and we have to work through these quickly and find a way of shortlisting them as fast as possible. So really, to give yourself the best chance, the clearer you can make your application, an assessor can review it quickly, understand what you're doing, what country you want to work with, what challenge statement or statements you want to apply for, and it becomes very quick and easy to understand. If they get slowed down trying to work out the detail and not clear what the understanding is, they might misunderstand some of the finer point of your application and decide that actually it's not a particularly good application. Again, just come back to kind of the costs, make sure they're realistic. They will be checked and assessed. And the last little points here is any questions and queries, please do email them to the grant-application@wrap.org.uk. We will endeavour to give you as much support and guidance as we possibly can, although we cannot influence what you choose to write into your application. We have to remain independent and not tell you how to write your applications. But any particular questions, please do raise it through this particular email. And finally, again, in bold, 13th of January is the hard deadline. And if you miss that by a minute, then I'm afraid we can't accept it. So I would really encourage you back to that. Get on and have a look at the PQQ, get that submitted, get your application details and the guidance documents, and then start to build it up and give yourself as much time as possible. And I acknowledge the timescales of this is not great, with Christmas running right in the middle, but we are subject to our funders, and these are the timescales we've had to work to. So unfortunately, that's just the way life is. But hopefully you still have enough time to submit some robust and strong strong applications. That's the end of the slides I've got to go through. Again, here's the link to get in there to register an application pack, get the pre-QQ submitted, and then from that you should be able to move through very quickly to the application form itself and the full guidance. So I will stop presenting now, and I can see there's one or two things coming through chat, but I will just ask Kate maybe just to highlight what these questions are, please.
Yes, thanks for your presentation there, Mike. I just want to cover very quickly one point about inquiries, and just to point out to any applicants, if they have already been through the PQQ stage and have access to the Delta system, all inquiries must go through the Delta messaging centre once you are at the Delta stage of the application process. That is an audit requirement for ours. If you have a question about filling in the PQQ, please email it to the Pacts grant inbox, and we'll help you out with the PQQ. So yes, we do have some questions that have come in. Mike, I'll just read them out to you if you're happy to answer them, or I will.
Yep.
So the 20% limit for in-country partners seems quite low. Why set a limit? It does not really sit well with the idea of equitable partnerships. Are the funds official development assistance for South Africa, India and Kenya?
So I did touch on the 20%, and I can understand why it seems low. Probably if I come back to, or I'll come back to that first of all and answer the second question. Are the funds ODA? No, they're not. They are coming directly from UKRI, and then how we disperse it from there on in with UKRI's agreement are kind of down to us and the in-country pacts. The 20%, I would agree, it does seem low, but we know that the in-country costs will be considerably lower than they would be in the UK or Western Europe. There is also a degree of managing both RAP and UKRI's exposure. And we did have some discussions around this, and the view was that whilst 20% might seem low because of how much 20% will buy in country, that would enable enough for the project to go ahead. And as I mentioned, if for one or two key projects which we think will be have really strong potential, if it becomes a deal breaker, then please ask the question, and provided there is a really strong justification and we can understand why that 20% limit is going to stop the project from going forward, we'll review it and just see how we might be able to progress it.
Thanks, Mike. Next question, can we provide a link to the TRL level definitions? Yes, we certainly can. We can send that out with the Q&A pack after this session so that everyone has access to that. Next question, does technology necessarily have to come from a UK institution, or can it come from one of the countries listed?
The technology can come from one of the countries listed, but in terms of who is delivering the project and who is providing the solution, then that has to be a UK organisation. And I know, it's a fairly common position that when you're looking at all recycling technology, quite often some of the particular parts of infrastructure, or quite a lot of it, can at times be use non-UK technology. So there's no difference in this. It's about actually what the UK business is going to be promoting and how they are using that technology to address the challenge.
Thank you. Next question. If the desire is for tried and tested technological business solutions, this call is directed to scientists and businesses in the sector and not social scientists. Is this correct?
Right. Sorry, I'm just kind of reflecting on the question. The solution is directed actually to anybody. The important thing is that it is about driving change in the country and delivering activity that will contribute towards the particular in-country pacts and address one of their challenges. So it could be to sciences, it could be businesses, social sciences could play a part, and I've mentioned going through that the role the informal sector plays is really important in all four countries, and so there is a potential crossover into social science there as well. So that it wouldn't be excluded. It's again about whatever intervention takes place. Does it have the capabilities for actually contributing towards the pact targets?
Thank you. Next question. Are you looking to split the 1.7 million pot equally across the countries, or is it purely based on the best impactful ideas?
Ideally, we would like all four countries to get a fair share. We want to treat them all the same. We get the same support from us, irrespective of which country is. But the reality is that there are challenges which have been posted out there, put out there, and if there are particular solutions coming through, that means that one country will benefit more than another. Then the potential that it will be, as is in the question, it is based on the best ideas, best impact. So the ideal is we would share it evenly, but we deliberately haven't said so much of the 1.7 is allocated to each country, so we have flexibility, so we can support the best ideas.
you. Next question, on the PQQ, how specific do you need to be? Some people are still considering whether they're looking at 1 or 2 countries, but we'd like to see the level of details in the final submission documents.
I would say that provided if you're looking at 1 or 2, that will be enough to trigger, and on the assumption that you can tick all the right boxes on all the rest of them, that will open it up so you can get into the application form. And then if over the coming weeks you decide that actually you want to increase from 2 to 3 or to 4, it will be the final application that will be reviewed. So just because you haven't said all 4 countries in the PQQ and they turn up in your full application, then you won't be discounted. It's just a way to check that we know how close people are and whether they are focusing on 1, 2, or 3, 4 countries. But no, it won't be a deal breaker if you change from 2 to 4 between PQQ and application.
Thanks. And if I could just add on to that we do only need sort of a brief overview of your project idea within your PQQ. And part of that is just to double check that it is a real person filling in the PQQ and not a bot triggering the form, and also to check that you are hitting one of the challenges within the challenge statement and have a good chance of submitting an eligible application. The full application form is quite lengthy, so we wouldn't want you to sort of really to be wasting your time if you're nowhere near the mark on that. Next question. Do you think similar grants will be available for different markets?
I'm not quite clear exactly what the question is getting at. So probably what I say is the grant which is available at the moment is what's available. And if it's addressing plastic packaging and it will contribute towards one of the Plastic Pact targets, then and doesn't matter whether it's around any part of that marketplace, if it's addressing the challenge, then what you see is kind of what you get at the moment. If the question's around, do we think there are going to be similar grants for different markets? So are we going to be looking at textiles, for example? At the moment, I would say no, because we have no funding to do it. Whether things change and someone comes to us in the future and says, can you run for a different marketplace on resource efficiency in the future, then the whole picture will change. But for the moment, the focus is on plastic packaging for these 4 countries and delivering against the challenge statements.
Thank you. And if you are interested in something that focuses on a different market, such as textiles or something like that, please do keep an eye on the RAP funding website, on the RAP funding web pages. That's where details of any new opportunities will be advertised as and when they become available. Next question. I understand that activities have to be done in one of the 4 countries. Can we do them in the UK alone without any partner countries?
I think it's extremely unlikely. And we did contemplate looking at this about whether you could import materials from one of the countries and run them as a pilot demonstration in the UK. I think it's important that we have to recognise that the in-country conditions are very, very different from the UK. And so trialling a technology in the UK, potentially with a UK feedstock, would be very, very different than doing something similar in one of the 4 countries. So we really want to see a pilot done in the country so we can see how the activities, solutions operate in the local conditions. And the expression I've used when we're kind of going through developing this is, we're very conscious. We do not want to see this as the UK helicoptering UK solutions from Western Europe into these countries, because those market conditions, the social, the cultural environments are very, very different. And that's why we want to see the pilots, demonstrations, activities run in country, and ideally with a country partner if at all possible.
Thank you. Moving on from that, how many partners, such as businesses, academic institutions, and charities, are you expecting from any of these 4 countries?
That really depends on the individual applicants. We have no problems with a solution, maybe engaging with a couple of partners. The important thing is that there is that kind of buy-in from the in-country partner, kind of almost building on my previous answer. But yeah, there's no kind of restrictions with that 20 limit. If you need to put a consortium together and it stays within that 20% limit, and you may remember back when I looked at some of the eligible costs, you know, a bit of research, a bit of market information, and if you need to use local businesses, local academic research organizations, that's absolutely fine. So, you know, really it's down to individual applicants to show who those in-country partners are.
Thank you. Next question. Is it open to a company which is new with no revenues yet?
So this is effectively as a new start business, if I'm understanding the question correctly. We would look at it. I mean, I would say it's always as a new business, and being able to judge the financial stability of a business is always challenging. But I wouldn't discount it offhand. It might make your make it more challenging for you in your application to convince the assessors that you know, you have, you know, a good, robust, reliable financial setting. You have the resources to deliver the project over the 12-month period. But from my perspective, I wouldn't discount it. I'll probably pass the question to you, Kate, and what's happened on other grants we run, and what the position's been on new starts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Mike. Yes, so new startups can apply, but I will state that we will be running a financial assessment on all applicants to check their financial stability and their ability to deliver the project, including the budget that they have set out within their application, their ability to provide any match funding or for funding any ineligible costs that are part of their project. All of that will be considered by the financial assessor and taken into account based on the new company. It is likely, if you are a new startup, that a guarantor may be required in order to manage the risk associated with a company that has not yet demonstrated its ability to manage on the financial side. But please do go ahead and apply if you have an eligible project idea. We will put you through that financial assessment, and if the project is fundable and a guarantor is required at that point, we can take you through that process as and when we get to the award stage of the process. Next question. How involved with the Pact countries are the final decisions? Sorry, that question's cut off halfway through. We know that India and South Africa have some great innovators in country that need support. It is puzzling for them that the grant is structured in this way. That doesn't quite flow as a question. I'm just trying to read through the rest of it to see if I can make it make more sense. Are Pact members or boards involved in the decision-making process? I think is what that question is trying to get to.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you've raised some good points there. yes, you're right. India, South Africa, and Kenya and Chile, actually, they've all got some great ideas and innovators, and it would be great if we could support them. The way that our funding is being provided, the focus on this particular call has been for UK-based businesses, and see how that we could support them, maybe open up and create new marketplaces in these countries. But we are very conscious and very aware that, as I said earlier, the UK does not have all the solutions to some of these unique challenges in country, and all 4 countries do have their own academics, research organisations, and there is innovation coming through there. And there are some interesting ideas, and I know that through the knowledge transfer network, they do have competitions directly focused for in-country innovators. In terms of the Pact countries, we will be assembling assessment panels. They will review all the applicants, and there'll be a range of assessors for each country, but there will be a Pact representative on that assessment panel, and so they will have the ability to feed into the final decisions. And it is important, they are delivering the impact in-country Pacts. They are there at the sharp end, and so we will listen to their views and their thoughts as to whether they think the intervention would be successful and work for their particular local environments.
Thank you. Another question's just come in. What is the expected project timeline?
So the closing date for applications, as I said, is the 13th of January. We will then be probably taking a couple of weeks to work our way through all the applications. The assessment panels will be meeting, I think it's first week in February. There's the possibility, if we need to go back for some clarification questions, that might kind of run on slightly, but the plan is that successful applicants will be notified. I think it's towards the end of February or during February, and then we will deal with the contract negotiations. But the first thing we need to do is to agree who we're going to support and for what value, and basically make that commitment that we will provide the funding, resolve the contracts, and make sure that we're all comfortable with the contracts. And then as soon as we get those in place, then work on delivery can take place, and provided the delivery is completed and the feasibility report is completed by March 2023, and we can make the final payments, then that's absolutely fine. But that effectively, if you think between now and March, is about working out which projects we support and getting the commercial arrangements in place, and then moving on from that, it'll be kind of a 12-13 month period to deliver and report.
Yeah, so if I could just add in on that, Mike, that see any project costs incurred prior to a signed contract being in place cannot be covered by this grant fund. So obviously we will be working very quickly with the awarded projects as quickly as we can once they have been notified of a grant award, in order to get those funding contracts in place so that projects can start. So we are aiming to have those in place by the end of March, beginning of April, to give people a sort of a full 12-month period to conduct their projects and to submit the feasibility report by the end of March 2023. Just having a quick check through, I haven't had any more questions in. There was a quick question about the range of award sizes. That's detailed within the guidance document, and that's for funding of between £50,000 and £250,000. So your project budget must fall within those ranges. Anything above £250,000, you would need to self-fund those additional costs. If you're requesting funding for below £50,000, your project will be considered too small and not eligible for funding. I don't see any other questions coming through the chat at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Kate. We'll just kind of leave it in this kind of suspended silence for a minute or two, just in case anybody has some last minute thoughts or questions, queries, inspiration, just to give you a couple of minutes to collect your thoughts. But just to kind of summarize what I concluded, if you go on and fill in the PQQ, that will open up a lot more information and guidance documents. And if you are unsure or you want further clarification or a question comes up, in the next few days, please do email us, get in touch with us. And I think, am I right saying, Kate, that there is an email address on the website?
Yes, there is an email address on the website. Just bear with me a moment, I will just get that for you because it's quite lengthy. The email address is Plastic Innovation Global Grant @wrap.org.uk. But that is obviously on the website as well, in case you didn't catch that. We have another question through. Can best practice of UK plastics recycling be implemented in India, Kenya? Will this be considered a new idea?
Yes, it can. Is it a new idea? Probably not, but it might be new to these countries. When we're looking at the scope, we kind of said TRL levels, TRL 6. I perhaps should have made it a bit clearer. It's TRL 6 or above. So yeah, if there is something that is tried and tested and working really well in the UK, and it is applicable to the local market conditions in India and Kenya, then that's fine. We would look to support that. So whilst we want to encourage innovation, new solutions, if it is a proven and tested solution in the UK and it is applicable to these countries and will fit with the local market conditions, then that would be fine. We'd be happy to support that.
Great, thank you, Mike. Another question has just come in. Can a postdoc on a fixed-term contract apply, or does the applicant need to be a permanent member of academic staff?
I would have a good guess at this, but I'm just wondering, Kate, whether you have a definitive answer, or is this to the best of our knowledge? I would say that they could be on a fixed term contract, but you might be able to provide better answer than I can, Kate.
Yeah, so the applicant needs to be a UK registered entity, and by UK registered entity we mean it would need to be the university itself that is applying for this funding. A sole trader or an individual person, so the postdoc on their own, cannot apply. If your university or institution is happy to apply on your behalf and you're a postdoc on a fixed term contract, that is okay. You don't need to be a permanent member of staff, but you as an individual, as the postdoc, cannot apply. It will need to be your academic institution that applies on your behalf. Another question's just come in. Mixed plastics pyrolysis to raw oil or use in crude refineries is eligible to apply for target countries if already built and tested pyrolysis technology in the UK.
Okay, great question, I might say, actually. And the the easy answer to that is if it will deliver against one of the 4 targets, then chemical recycling is perfectly acceptable. But I would ask you to look very closely at the targets and think about where these end markets might go to. There has been historically some activities where they're using pyrolysis and they're using it for effectively generating a fuel that is then used to generate power. And there are certainly some pacts, and when we look at some of the local requirements that are coming in around packaging, this would actually be out of scope because it doesn't count as recycling. So look at the country targets and see what the views are there. I mean, I would say that if it's a solution that can be used to produce a pure enough hydrocarbon that could go back into plastic packaging, then that is a really good solution. If it's just being used to recover it and it's being used as an energy supply, you need to look at the detail of each country pact.
Thank you. Nothing else in, just at the moment on the questions.
That little suspense did generate a little bit more activity, so I will do exactly the same again, and just kind of before we close out, just give people that last couple of minutes just in case there's some last minute questions. I feel like an auctioneer sitting in the room now, looking around and saying, have we got any more bids coming in? I'm going to be closing, I've been going closing. The fact that nothing further is coming in, I'm going to thank everybody for turning up, for attending, for your patience. Thanks for your questions. They've been really valuable. They've certainly challenged me in my thinking, how much I really understand about this. So hopefully I've answered them coherently and clearly. But again, any questions, please just go back to the website and drop us an email, and we'll be happy to take things on from there. So if we don't have any more questions, any closing points from you, Kate?
We've just had one question just sneak in, as is always the way when we try to close out. Can we also look into recycled plastics and biomaterials as combined end product?
Yes, you can look into it. I would draw your attention to the targets in India in particular, where they are excluding compostables. But off the top of my head, I don't think any other packs exclude compostables, and I would put biomaterials in there. So yeah, any form of combination of that as an end product. Bear in mind, we want to encourage closed loop recycling. So if it's a combined end product, what happens with that combined end product post-use? Is it something that can be recycled, or would it actually end up going for disposal? But yes, certainly, all these sort of innovations and ideas are exactly what we're about encouraging.
Right, no further questions coming in.
Okay, well, thank you everybody once again. And as I say, any questions, anything crops up in the next few days, please do contact us through the email address on the website. But thank you for your time. Thank you for the questions. And we look forward to some really strong, robust applications. But thank you again. And we'll now be closing the meeting.